All right, good evening. It is 5:30, and I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Fargo Board of Education. Please, if you're able, stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Pledge
of the
allegiance to the
United
flag
States of
of the
America
United States of America
and to the
and to
republic
the
for
republic
which it stands,
for which
one
it
nation,
stands,
under
one
God,
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next, Mr. Clark.
Yeah, I move that we approve the agenda with the addition of the human capital addendum. And I'd also like to pull 3 items from the consent agenda, items 6C, D, and E.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes,
Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. Motion passes. Next, we will move on to our recognition of the audience. All right. Okay, at this time, the board will hear comments from the public. We ask that each speaker who has signed up to address the board state their name and home school district for the record. Speakers must refrain from using this forum to criticize or complain about a specific employee or student by name. Vulgar or profane language will not be tolerated. The board is interested in your comments and will listen carefully, but is not obligated to respond to or debate issues in this forum. This evening, one speaker has signed up to address the board. The speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Upon conclusion of the allotted time, a chime will sound and the speaker is asked to conclude. If necessary, a final chime will sound 15 seconds later, signifying the end of the speaker's time at the podium. I will now call our speaker to the podium, who is Paul Moore.
I knew I could do it. Hi, I'm Paul Moore, 5th place. So just a lot of things that came up in this last agenda that I was trying to look at. I guess I'll maybe start with the last thing first. It's in the budget that administrators are getting a raise of
Now exiting.
by 9.43%, almost $1 million, 88.6. And teachers are getting 0.93. So it's like an off by 10%, at 597. So, I mean, it just seems like administration is getting a kind of a really good bump here, and the teachers, who we always kind of say is that this is the people we're here for, kind of getting the shaft. So, some of the other things, I think like the administrative policy review items, the AP 3500 tobacco use. This is going to be allowed on school property. That seems very questionable to me. I realize it's for a ceremony, but it's like, okay, this is still school property. I mean, you can't drink alcohol on school property, and that's perfectly legal too. Student staff relations I didn't really get a chance to read this. Was it reviewed by the board? And some of the things that are, okay, so this is supposed to be a policy-based school board. So you basically, there's certain policies laid out, and then you review them on an annual basis. And then I noticed that under the code of conduct, there was some missing. And I guess I thought they were kind of big ones. So if we're going to review them, they should be done in a timely fashion. The anti-bullying, for example, Student behavior and discipline, which kind of goes with anti-bullying, suspension, expulsion. I mean, these things are kind of big items and they just didn't get done. I kind of question why that happened. Then I guess, since I've got just a couple seconds here, moving the public comment time to the end. So I guess the idea is that you're going to start releasing the agendas early enough so that we can review them for the next time. Because if the public isn't, allowed to get up front before everybody does their discussions and say, hey, have you thought about one or have you thought about two? Then, at the end of the meeting, you've already done all the business and you sure as heck aren't going back to review any of it. So it just seems to me like that's a wrong place for it to be.
Thank you. We'll move on to our,
President Berkland,
yes, Ms. Nelson?
I am so sorry to interrupt. I was having some technology issues. Would you accept any further amendments to the agenda?
Yes.
I move that we move board reports, item 8A, appreciation to retiring board members, to right now before we begin the reports.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Nelson and a second by Mr. Clark. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. We will now move on to 8A. And Ms. Nelson, would you like to begin?
I would love to, and this is a great honor of mine. I also want to start by thanking all of the retired board members that are in the audience. Thank you for showing up in support of retiring board member Jim Johnson. Jim, tonight your legacy tenure on the Fargo Board of Education comes to a close after 23 years. You were first appointed to the board in August of 2001 to fulfill the term of Ken Olson, who had resigned his position due to health reasons. You were chosen to join the board out of 7 applicants. On your application, your answer to the question of why would you like to be a board member of the Fargo Board of Education was to help foster the development of alternative revenue sources, to build community support for the long-range delivery model, to work with other board members to enhance the educational offerings to all current and future students. You were then elected by our community for a 2-year term in 2002, and then 4 4-year terms in 2004, 2008, 2012, 2016, and 2020. Representing our community and state in educational matters for nearly a quarter of a century is an amazing feat. The landscape of education in general, but also for the Fargo Public Schools, has changed greatly during your time on the Fargo Board of Education. You have worked with countless iterations of the board and 4 superintendents. There is no way to quickly summarize your time on the board, but you have helped lead this district through tremendous change, including things like long-range facility planning, including guiding principles, changes to grade configurations, selling and purchasing of district property, additions to schools, pairing of elementary schools, and the building and opening of new schools, attendance boundary changes, strategic plan rewrites and updates, the move of Trollwood Performing Arts School to its new Blue STEM amphitheater, curriculum changes and the addition of all-day kindergarten, federal mandates, student activities and athletic changes, new board and administrative policies, the 2017 mill levy vote, bond refinancing, and time of uncertainty in our community, like the flood of 2009 and COVID-19. Throughout this time of change, you have been a board member who is ready to roll up their sleeves, dedicate their time, dig into the information and issues, and make the best decision possible for the betterment of our students and staff. You have given of yourself to our district, our state, and our nation on the topic of education. During your board tenure, you have served as president 6 times, been a board negotiator 11 times, serving as chair twice, chaired the governance committee or its predecessor 6 times, chaired the planning committee 11 times, chaired the government affairs committee twice. You have been faithful in your attendance at conferences and continuing education opportunities, and also providing leadership for North Dakota School Boards Association, serving on their governmental affairs committee for 14 years, and served as the North Dakota School Boards Association board president for 3 years. Additionally, you have had leadership roles with NSBA, National School Boards Association. You have presented at many conferences and testified numerous times in front of our legislature. Due to your commitment to your board work, you have received the Veteran Board Member and Master Board Member Awards from North Dakota School Boards Association. And this is news, because Anne Marie has been bugging NDSBA for 4 years on the number of points you have for their service recognition program, of which they have no higher level. They are rolling out the Legacy of Service Award this year, which she says could have been named the Jim Johnson Award. Jim, a simple thank you isn't enough for your 23 years of dedication to our school district. I hope you know that your time, commitment, and thousands of hours you have given our schools, students, and staff mattered so much. Thank you. And I need a little bit of help with the presentation. So as a board, we present you with this recognition of your service to the community and students of our district. Dr. Gandhi, do you have anything to give Jim?
Thank you, Robin.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you to Anne Marie for her help.
All right, moving on to recognizing Dr. Newman. Ms. Gullickson, would you please go forward?
Thank you. I'd be honored. Tracy, thank you for your dedicated service to the Fargo Board of Education and our district the last 4 years. You won a seat on the board in the 2020 election as the top vote getter in a field of 13 candidates. You joined the board during a very uncertain time in our world and in education during the COVID-19 pandemic. Your knowledge as a pediatrician and public health expert was needed on our board and for our district to bring our students and staff back safely into the classroom during a time of unknowns. You helped us open our schools in fall 2020 through the FPS Smart Restart Plan and assisted with information sharing on COVID-19 and various protocols. While it was a turbulent time in our community and our world, your expertise, calm demeanor, and fervent desire to share and adhere to research-based and data-driven decisions for our schools was what our board needed. During your tenure on the board, you have shared your leadership skills with us in a variety of ways. You have chaired standing committees, and you served as board president during the 22-23 school year. During that school year, the board faced a variety of challenges and issues. Your steadfast leadership allowed us to keep focused on our work and why we are all here, of which you frequently remind us, the students. A lifelong student yourself, you have taken all opportunities available to you to learn more about our board work through conferences and workshops, attending all NDSBA and NSBA conferences available, along with webinars offered in our state. You have also advocated for education at the state and national level. Tracy, you once said you will take on any job that benefits children. Your devotion to children is commendable, to say it simply. Thank you for taking on the challenging, difficult, yet very rewarding role of a board member for our school district. Your dedication has absolutely made a difference in the lives of many. On behalf of the board, I have this recognition of your service to our community, which I will happily present to you in person when you are back in town. Thank you.
Great. All right, thank you. And finally, Seth. Tonight you complete your 4-year term on the Fargo School Board. During your time on the board, you have been an advocate for our students and staff, a champion for equal rights, and a passionate supporter of public education. You've dug into board work, committing your time to the needs of our district. You've led the negotiation committee for 3 years and have been the lead negotiator for the past 2 negotiation sessions. As As the leader of negotiations, you have desired to make the changes needed and possible for our staff, and to do so by engaging in dialogue to make those changes collaboratively. Additionally, you have served as our board vice president the last 2 years. Always desiring to learn more and do better, you have attended all conferences and professional development opportunities available to you. In your tenure, the board has been busy, from responding to COVID-19 to renaming Woodrow Wilson to Dakota High School, to strategic and long-range facility planning, to attendance boundary changes, to the establishment of the land acknowledgement statement. Your leadership has assisted in making change for the betterment of our district. Your time on the board will impact our district staff and students for years to come. Seth, thank you for your time you have committed to Fargo schools. Your dedication will be missed. And on behalf of the board, I'm going to present you with a recognition of your service to our students in the community. All right. Thank you all very much, and we will now move on to our report section. I don't believe we have anyone from the FEA to present to us tonight, so we will move into 5B, our administration report.
Thank you. Every year, we do policy updates, going through our administrative policies and making sure that we are updating them. We have a goal of making sure that all of our policies are reviewed at least once every 4 years, so we do them on a rotation cycle. So in your board packet today, you have the policies that we have updated this past year and noted a lot of the changes that we made along the way. So that is included for you, and we stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Clark?
Yeah, I know it's been, the student code of conduct has kind of been popping up throughout the last 9 months, pretty much everywhere. It's not just here. It's been kind of coming up in a lot of discussions on a lot of different committees and board work. Do you have a idea of like when, maybe a more finalized draft of that overhaul will be done?
I do. The Student Code of Conduct, which has been extremely collaborative in working, we've had several groups of principals and stuff who work on it, was brought to Cabinet for review this past Monday with the intention of going to the print shop next week to print. Upon our review, we realized that because so many people were working on it, there's about 18 different fonts and some formatting things that were noted to us, but we're just gonna make those small changes and hopefully with the intention of getting it to the print shop in the next couple of weeks. Our intention is to make sure that a copy of the Student Code of Conduct is available for all the students and families at the start of the school year.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. We are going to next move on to our consent agenda. Before I entertain a motion, though, I just want to,
We need to do the Marzano report too.
my apologies. Okay, thank you. Marzano report.
That is my fault. I missed that on the agenda. Every year, we do provide the board with our Marzano Evaluation System report. That has been included in your board packet too. I will hand it over to Dr. McCannon.
Madam President, Dr. Gandhi, members of the board, cabinet, just briefly before I stand for questions, I just want to highlight a few things on the Marzano report. We started the Marzano appraisal system, the evaluation model in '22, so this will be the 3rd year that we are wrapping up using this model. Just a few reminders that this is a collaborative process between both teachers and administrators with a focus on growth and development of our teachers. We have 2 categories, as you saw in the document that you were provided, a category to appraise our most current teachers more often, and then a category 2 for staff members that have more experience. If you look through the data, you'll also see that there are 4 areas, 4 domains that we look at when we're growing and coaching teachers. Classroom strategies and behaviors, planning and preparation, reflecting on teaching, and then collegiality and professionalism. And so with that quick overview, I would stand for any questions that you may have.
Any questions or comments? Mr. Clark?
So, 2 things. They both have to do with page 4 of the memo, the tables of kind of the distribution of our educators at what level they were identified at. First one, just a correction, the level 1 in the 23-24, the percent should be 0.2, not 2. I only caught it because I was like, well, 13 has 2%, but the year before 31 is 0. Anyway, but more to that point, I think, we do want to see growth, right? And I see a shift from the 22-23 school year to 23-24 school year where, it's more of a, there's far fewer level 1 and 0. In fact, we, went from maybe 4% to 0 or 0.2%, falling in the 0 or 1 category. I see that, my first instinct is great. We have less teachers who are falling into the lower category, but it also makes me maybe question whether or not we're appropriately applying the measurements if we're more or less saying, hey, in 23-24 we didn't have any really low performing teachers when it just seems unrealistic.
Yes, thank you. I think there's a couple things that you're going to see when we review this report next year. And that is, with our strategic plan, data really has to have a student outcome. So what we are working on at this point in time with this data is this aligned with the academic outcomes that we see with our students. And so at this point, moving forward, by the time we have this session, I think there'll be a better alignment. Really, are the outcomes that we're seeing in the classroom aligned with the evaluations? And if they're not, then we have to really take a look at, are we calibrated and are we focused on looking for the right level of instruction in the classroom? Recently, last week, I had the opportunity to present to our principals about the evaluation model and really talk to them about coaching, growing, the reason that we do evaluations in FPS, and making sure that we know that we get to a system where there is an alignment between student outcomes and how they're appraised at the level they are. There could be a couple reasons, though, that I don't know necessarily about, and that is sometimes, we've had pretty good retention the last couple years. We hired less teachers this current year than the year before, and we hired, quite a bit of teachers with good experience. And I also think that some of that might have been, did we hire hard and maybe hired a better quality of teacher? But we only truly will know that once we do a crosswalk with the academic outcomes.
Dr. Gandhi?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think Dr. McKenna hit the nail on the head. I think we currently, in our district, and I think many districts too, we don't have a clear delineation between performance and effectiveness. And we didn't have that because prior to the strategic plan rewrite, we didn't have a concrete set of measures because there's so many different data points across every classroom that we were looking at to standardize how we look at the effectiveness of every teacher based on some of the goals that we have now, which we know going into next year is going to be ELO proficiency. I think when we went through writing the measures for our strategic plan this year, each department and team submitted their own measures. Human capital did not submit a measure for changing the variance in terms of the teacher performance categories from year to year, because like Jeff said, or Dr. McKenna said, there's so many different variables there. I would caution us on saying, like, let's try to reduce the amount of effective teachers or increase the amount of applying teachers for a variety of reasons. One is that the way we do the Marzano evaluation, it's one of 3 evaluation systems that the state is allowing us to use. A couple years ago, there's about 125 different elements or domains that teachers were being evaluated on. We then, as we switched to the Marzano FTE model or FTEM model, which was a smaller subset of domains. But then even then, some principals at their buildings may have an instructional focus on one specific element based on their campus data or something else. So when you look at year after year data, even if the N is the same and the person and the teacher is the same, they might be evaluated on 2 separate elements, year 1 versus year 2. So I think a better way to look at the effectiveness of our teachers would be to compare the performance ratings that our observers, our administrators are seeing when they walk into the classroom and saying, are they actually matching the student outcomes that we want as well? So that's the level of analysis that we look to provide next year. But I don't know unless, and I'd look to anyone else on our team, if we would be able to make as many meaningful changes if we try to set goals based on the categories of the administrator ratings of the teachers without having that tie back to student outcomes.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I don't think I'd advocate, trying to have specific goals as far as the distribution goes. I guess if I did have a goal, I'd want 100% at level 5, right? So that wasn't my concern. My concern was was wondering whether or not the distribution was realistic. But maybe I'll wait till next year to see how it aligns with our strategic plan better.
I don't know if we'd have the opportunity, like, I wouldn't be able to verify or not verify that because we don't know. It's administrative observation data.
I guess maybe to make the point more clear, do you think this distribution is something that is reasonable to expect given what your instinct tells you about the effectiveness of our teachers?
Tough question. I'd want to go and look at some comparisons from other districts and take a look at, see what is realistic or not for that distribution. I personally, if you're asking me that question, I struggle without knowing that tie to student outcomes on what is a realistic distribution or not. The reality is within public education, the reason that we had Race to the Top grant or come in the early 2000s was because in 1999 there was a study called the widget effect, which showed that 99.9% of public education teachers in the nation were rated effective or highly effective, but the student outcomes didn't match. Districts have started shifting towards that practice to have more of that linkages. Not everyone shifted already right now, so it's a hard speculation for me without looking at comparative data.
Does the Marzano method, which I'm pretty confident is evidence-based, do they have like a, hey, this is roughly what you would expect to see?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Bob or Missy do.
I have not seen anything that Marzano would share like this as an exemplar of what the outcomes would be, just because every school district has a different group of educators, varied with experience, different goals that they focus on. And just to echo what Dr. Gandhi said, and I don't have that data point in front of me, but I think nationwide, what you'll see when you look at the data is typically, even in severely underperforming school districts, generally it's between 90 and 97% of their teachers are rated proficient, which is really equates to highly effective. Um, and so one of the things that, we hope to have here is that regardless of this rating, are we growing and coaching and developing the capacity of, our number one resource, which is the teachers that work directly with our kids. And that's ultimately the focus that we've had this year and that we've talked to the principals about for having next year.
Great, thank you very much, Dr. McKenna and Dr. Gandhi. Now we will move on to our consent agenda, but before we vote, I just want to remind everyone that C, D, and E on the consent agenda have been moved to our business items. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda. Yes, Mr. Johnson.
I move adoption of the consent agenda for items A, B, and F.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Mr. Holden. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, same sign? All right, thank you very much. Our motion passes. And next, we will move on to business, beginning with item 7A, which comes to us through memo number 143. And Dr. Gandhi, would you please introduce this for us?
I will. In your board packet for Memo 143, you have Strategic Initiative 5, Equitable Resources and Planning Monitoring, created by our operation team. That result monitoring report there. That report is very similar to the report from last year, providing the same type of analysis and information that we use to make reasonable progress. It's an interesting time because today we're going to ask you to monitor last year's Strategic Initiative 5, but then also later today, we're going to ask you to update potential result policies that are going to shift what next year's data will look like. And we kind of just had an example of that we talked about as well. But the information in there is provided to you around our operations part of the house, looking at both of our results focus on human capital, results focus on our budget, and our strategic plan resource allocation as well. So we have members of our operations team, Bill, Dr. McKenna, Jackie here, as well as myself, if you have any questions on Strategic Initiative 5.
Mr. Johnson.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept that reasonable progress has been made on RSI 5 for the 2023-24 school year.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Johnson and seconded by Ms. Day. Any discussion, questions, or comments? All right, thank you. Seeing none, Ms. Campbell, would you please call the roll?
Christensen,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Kirkland.
Yes, motion carries. We will next move on to item number 7B, our results updates, which comes to us through memo number 140. And Mr. Gandhi, Dr. Gandhi, could you please introduce this for us again? Sorry.
Yes, and I am going to do a brief presentation as well. So administration brought to governance an update to your results policies. This update really is part of the comprehensive work that we're doing on systems thinking, strategic alignment within our organization. As we've talked about multiple times in the past this year since February, we really wanted to become more granular in our strategic plan to put some very objective targets and goals for around student achievement and what we want to do in our organization. The purpose for doing that is because sometimes there is just so many different factors in education, so many different data points, that we had many different aspects of our organizations working in different directions. And it's better for us to implement an OKR framework, meaning that as an organization, we want to make sure that we have collective buy-in towards a set of goals for students that we use and ground ourselves in what we accomplish. Doing that this year, we asked every team and every department to come up with very specific goals based on strategic initiatives and what they look like. Now, the second part of that becomes, how does the board monitor that? Your function as a board is to monitor strategic planning. The documents in your board packet, those updated result policies, will be a reflection of the presentation I'm about to share with you, but really just wanted to go through some of that structure and talk about what we as administration are looking for, should the board pass this, or what we plan on providing to the board moving forward to help determine reasonable progress. I think you've heard me say this before, but at the end of the day, for us, the goal is really just clarity. We want clarity and expectations, so not only can we make sure that we're meeting the board's mark for your vision for Fargo Public Schools, and as you monitor our performance as an organization, but also making sure that we are clear in our expectations for our staff, and then how we make decisions, assign our staffing and our resource allocations as well with the priorities that the board has set forth within our organization. So one of the first things that we did as an organization is, historically in the past, as you know, you were always given two separate documents: a strategic plan, which was a 3 to 5 year plan for the organization, and a separate scope of work on an annual basis, which was your operational plan. Normally in the past, that operational plan really encompassed a whole bunch of different work, from the high level work from a variety of different organizations or departments within Fargo Public Schools. So we had some of the work from our operations team, our teaching and learning team, our student activities team, and so forth. This year, when we created the unified strategic and operational plan, what we determined was that the work that we do in our operational plan is no longer going to be a standalone document or something that we provide to the board. The operational plan should just be the specific actions or projects that we take as an organization to meet the goals that we have in our strategic plan. So when we start using the term the unified strategic and operational plan, the reason for that was that we wanted to make sure that the strategic plan was setting goals, and then the operational plan was embedded in there to become the strategies to meet the goal. So that way, one of the biggest changes going forward is when the board would traditionally get a report on whether or not we completed the operational plan activities, we were never able to show you whether or not that actually moved the needle on some of the strategic plan results that we had. So being able to look at the effectiveness of the strategies that we employ and whether or not they hit our goals is a big factor of why we consolidated the two into one plan. We also made sure that every one of our organizations or departments within our organization created their own scope of work for the next school year, where their goals and their plans are aligned directly to the measures that we have in our strategic plan. So that piece of alignment is huge for us in terms of making sure that we have a very set, concrete data that we are trying to work for and look at what we use to evaluate success in Fargo Public Schools. The reason that we do that, as I've talked before, is to truly understand where a sense of urgency is versus what sometimes can be a false sense of urgency. And the example around teacher evaluation was a great conversation, because we can look at a set of data or a distribution of teacher performance or what the case is and say, we need to set a target, we need to improve in this area. But if we don't have that tie back to student achievement, it's hard to know where the root cause of an issue truly is. Is it that, because part of that evaluation is subjective. So we don't want to set goals as an organization to accomplish something and meet those goals, but really not get the desired outcomes that we want. So as we move forward with monitoring the strategic plan, one of the things that we are going to ask the board is that we're going to start using administratively two different terms. One is an update and one is a reflection. Updates are information that we provide to you. So on your board meeting agendas on a bi-weekly basis, you will always receive an administrative update. That administrative update, as discussed by governance, is going to be included in your board packet. It'll be things like the Marzano evaluation report. It'll be things like a student activities report, other activities that we provide to you. That doesn't mean that an update is actually a true what we are providing to you as documentation towards reasonable progress. We want to make sure that we are very concrete in how we're demonstrating reasonable progress to the board for when they're monitoring. So as we go through this, one of the things that I'll delineate between is when the administration is going to provide the board with an update versus when the board is going to receive documentation that they can use to monitor our strategic plan. There are 4 different elements of our strategic plan. We have results, which are big and broad in scope. There are multiple results for 2 of our strategic initiatives. The rest of the strategic initiatives have 1 of them. We have standards, which are sub-results or things that we're trying to accomplish in our organization. Measures are new. They're SMART goals that are based on an annual performance. Those measures are what we're going to use to drive the work within our organization and to help determine whether or not we're making reasonable progress towards the results. And then we're going to start using strategies, which is what used to be our old operational plan and action items. Each of these different elements is monitored in a different way within our strategic plan. So that's what this table in front of you just shows. The board's function is to monitor results. And we need to be clear in terms of what does that look like, and because results are really, they encompass every standard and every other element of the strategic plan under it. So we wanted to make sure that we're not picking and choosing a single data point at a point in time to show you that we're making reasonable progress when board members may be looking for something else. The other thing that we did, and I know this is a little bit hard to read, is last year we restructured our entire organization to be based off of our strategic plan and create structured teams. So when we look at the Board of Education's team and we look at the board's primary function is around governance and strategic plan development and monitoring, the most important scope of work for the board, in our opinion, is to set that vision and set those goals and targets for the organization, because we're going to look at trying to achieve those, and that's what we're going to use to drive the work of the administration. But the other aspect that you'll see as you go down this chart, and I know it is hard to read, is that we have layered our organization to parallel our strategic plan. So Cabinet's job is to ensure that we are meeting the results of each of our strategic initiative, all 6 strategic initiatives. But then under that, we have also structured our organizational chart by strategic initiative team leaders who are in charge of each of those results. And then within each strategic initiative team, we have the various departments in our organization, and each department also has an independent role to execute the strategies that were identified in the strategic plan and achieve the measures. So there's more role clarity around everything that we are doing, and that's going to roll up to the reporting structure that we're going to provide to you moving forward. So Cabinet's responsibility, as it comes to the strategic plan leadership, for us is really going to focus on making sure that we are doing system level work and constantly adjusting the system to improve student outcomes and demonstrating that to the board. Each strategic initiative, that's when they will be providing a results monitoring report to you. In the past, we've always done one summative report. That today was an example of that with the Strategic Initiative 5 report. Our request from administration is that instead of one summative report, we actually provide you a monthly update, because some of the work that we're doing is more fluid and we are able to capture that, especially if we need to change a measure that may not be an effective measure for a variety of reasons, or what the case says, we can communicate that to you. So we actually want to increase our accountability by providing you with more frequent updates on a month-to-month basis, in addition to the summative report that we're providing. So when we talk about the role of Cabinet in that strategic plan development, especially with such a big aspect of our strategic plan being around resource allocation and ensuring that we are being the best fiduciary of taxpayer dollars we can to get our student outcomes, it's really focusing on what we call the 6 rights, which is ensuring that we have the right people doing the right work, the right structure for our roles and responsibilities, the right rewards and compensation and recognition, the right resources of tools, budgets, and time, and then the right decisions being made by the people closest to the work. When you look at this chart, the natural question to you then becomes, what determines what is right? And that's where those measures for your strategic plan come. We want to ensure that the work that we're doing is aligned to completing the goals that the board has established for the student outcomes that they want. That's also going to be our request of the board as you go through your work at planning committee, as you go through your work at negotiations, is to ensure that we are always ensuring that we have a universal standard within the organization that we are using to evaluate the effectiveness of the opportunities and the experiences that we are providing our students. So do we look at, when we look at our teacher contract, when we look at how we determine our budget, are we ensuring that we have the right resources to accomplish the goals that we want? And if not, what are some shifts that we need to make accordingly? We also went a step further and defined that to specific cabinet members and what their roles are, as indicated by the initials next to each specific piece of who's responsible for what within our organization. But then the next big thing is also making sure that we are creating a structure for more frequent monitoring towards these summative results. When today you were given Strategic Initiative 5, which focused on the operations. Strategic Initiative 1 is normally presented to the board in August or September. At the time that it's presented to the board, a challenge with the current structure is that at that point in time, we can't present to you data earlier because we don't receive a lot of our graduation rate data, a lot of our test scores from the previous year until late summer. However, at the time that we provide it to you, if the board does want to make changes, you've already approved your budget for the following year, and we've already established our scope of work. So the current structure of that strategic plan really doesn't allow us to both monitor previous year's performance, but then also continuously improve as an organization, because the timing of those two things have an inherent conflict with one another. So as we move forward, we want to make sure that we have a clear expectation and definition of what is reasonable progress. So we sat down as a cabinet team and we said, okay, for each of the strategic initiatives, if we were to request of the board to apply or update their results policies, what is it that the board needs to know and to ensure that for each of these goals, we are making reasonable progress? And I think this happened when we went through the continuous improvement conversation earlier this year as well, where if there isn't clarity in terms of what the board is monitoring, that's problematic for all of us because then we might be working towards two separate aims. Cabinet suggests that for each strategic initiative, we demonstrate reasonable progress through the following 5 things. One is showing an evaluation of data across multiple measures. We have multiple goals that the board has assigned to us for each of our strategic initiatives, so we'll provide you an evaluation of those goals, but then also showing you what are we doing to align our actions with those strategic goals. What are we doing to maintain flexibility when we have competing priorities within the organization to keep the focus on the goals and the outcomes that we want for our students? And then lastly, and most importantly, actually not lastly, one of the most important pieces obviously is showing that we are meeting our goals or that there is evidence of growth towards those goals. And lastly is making sure that if there are pieces that we realize are better for our organization, we are institutionalizing those learnings and adapting our organization so those become permanent practice. So we start sunsetting ineffective practices within our organization and then capitalizing on making sure that we're maximizing our resources to support the most effective practices for our students. So this is the biggest shift in your board packet today, is that replacing what used to be analysis of what were previously different data sets that we talked about at a work session with a definition of reasonable progress that the board would receive every time we do a strategic plan report. So this is just another further slide about what that definition will look like. So moving forward, should the board approve these result policies, this is what your new summative report would look like that you receive for each strategic initiative, where we would go through and provide you an evaluation of the data across multiple measures, show you what we did to align our actions with our strategic goals, show you what we did to maintain flexibility when there's competing priorities, demonstrate growth, and then what we institutionalized that were positive. We would then bake in, the request of governance was the using the administrative report function of the school board meeting agenda for monthly reflections on each strategic initiative. So this is the form that we would then provide to the board and make publicly available. So on a month-to-month basis, you'll see those same criteria that we use to define reasonable progress, what we are doing as an organization, So if there's any feedback or changes that need to be made at that point in time, the board can provide or redirect administration. And then the last piece is just achieving those very specific measures. So if you go back to our strategy map, at the end of the day, those measures are the specific goals around student outcomes that we have. We set very, very, very ambitious goals. I've shared this in the past. We don't expect to be able to hit every one of our goals. At our high schools right now, we have 200 and something goals. We have 91 at the elementary schools, and I think 100 and something at the middle schools. And our overall strategic plan is about 231 different measures that we have. However, we do want to be able to evaluate all of those measures and then be able to have a nimble organization that can be fluid to flex our resources in the areas that we see that there are some students not getting the outcomes that we want as well. So that's the last piece of what we are trying to put in place, the structure for board monitoring. The only other piece that I'll share is that previously in the past, we have provided you at the end of every year an update on our operational plan and saying, here's the items that we completed, here's the items that we didn't, here's the items that we're rolling over to the following year. Instead of doing that, we feel that it's better for our organization and actually to hold ourselves more accountable too, is that there shouldn't be a single operational plan action that's completed that the board doesn't get a piece that not only talks about what were your key accomplishments and challenges and did you complete the work, but a component around strategy effectiveness. If everything that we're doing should be tied to achieving a goal, someone needs to do that analysis for the board to say, did this strategy actually help with the goal or not? The board this year, for example, decided to, we actually as an organization changed the compensation model for special education teachers. A year from now, you should be able to have hard data that tells you, did that actually work for the goal that we were trying to accomplish, which was recruiting and retaining more of our special education teachers? Because if not, then we just continue a practice that was done at one point in time based off of one theory or research-based practice, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was effective for our organization. So we want to be able to put in these systems so then we can make those decisions, evaluate the data according to the outcomes that we want, and then make changes as our organization accordingly. And all of this will be shared with you through our strategy execution platform that we are hopeful to make available to the board, where the board can also look at each of our measures, also be able to look at the amount of money that we're spending towards each of those measures. Who's doing the work, whether it's salaries or non-salary expenditures, and are you actually getting the outcomes that you want? That's the level of data that we want to be able to provide to the board for their monitoring. And then lastly, what I'll say is a big component of this is also creating a public scorecard. So that means that what will be available on our district website later this summer or by this fall is a scorecard that's going to look exactly like this. It will have every aspect of our strategic plan, the sub goals that we have, all of the work that we're doing, and then the very specific measures that we're trying to hit, so you know whether or not we're making progress to the goals by completing this work, but also including information that's available to the public about what is the financial impact or financial commitment of the organization towards achieving this goal. So then we can also break down for every member of our community, but also our staff and our students, are we allocating our resources towards the goals that we want? And does our budget reflect our values to be able to show exactly that? So that's the model that we are putting in place for, and this is just a summary slide for that, for our strategic plan. And that is a quick synopsis of what was presented to governance and why we are asking you to update the result policies that you have in front of you.
Mr. Johnson?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve result policy 1 through 6 as attached in memo 140.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Johnson and seconded by Ms. Day. Discussion. Mr. Clark?
Oh, where to begin? So I guess maybe the first thing I will point out is that this is this is a pretty monumental shift to what I think is the fundamental purpose of this board. Like, this is the most important work we do is monitoring these results. And this is, I don't know if I would call it a paradigm shift, but it's pretty close. And it's been coming towards this point for several months. And I, I think maybe the first thing I'll say is that I think this is going to be a lot more work for board members as well as administration. Instead of having like 3 little data points that we say, all right, here's we want graduation rates and choice ready rates, and then are we making reasonable progress towards that? We won't be able to. That's no longer the case if we vote yes on Jim's motion, and that's going to be. It's going to require a ton more work. To be clear, I think that is a good thing, and I think that's the work the board should be doing. But I think we should keep that in mind when we're voting on this. And I think a question for clarification to the board, but also potentially to administration, is that in my interpretation of these changes is that we're functionally substituting our existing, handful of data points that we monitor. We're functionally replacing those with the unified strategic and operational plan data points. Is that what others are interpreting this as?
Dr. Gandhi?
I would say yes and no. So I'd say if you just look at the update to the policy document, that's exactly what it looks like. Because we're changing something, for example, from like analysis of graduation rates to here's the definition of reasonable progress. But those two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. We just happen to make both of those changes at the same time. The problem with something like analysis of graduation rate, choice ready rate, what you consider to be 3 different data points, it still lacks clarity for administration because I can then pick and choose. I showed an improvement of 0.5% for one subpopulation of students in graduation rate and maybe a different subpopulation of choice rate, right? Like we can piecemeal data as we want. What we did with this strategic plan was we set some very targeted goals. It's not just analyze the graduation rate to see whether or not we showed improvement, which sometimes as an organization, I think this is where this was an opportunity for us to grow and do a little bit better. I think sometimes that allows us to use the masses, and we have a lot of great things in our organization, but sometimes to mask some of the areas that we truly need to improve for our students that aren't getting the educational justice that they deserve. So us setting those very defined SMART goals is new to this strategic plan. I don't think it's exclusive to the graduation rate. Like last year, you guys were monitoring on, did you analyze the graduation rate? But us analyzing the graduation rate doesn't actually tell you what are we doing to improve the graduation rate. And that's the latter is what we're trying to get through with this shift. So if we wanted to, we can go back and still hit the goals, still keep this definition of reasonable progress, but these are the things that we want you to provide us an analysis for. I took those out of the result monitoring, the result policies, because if we're evaluating the multiple measures and the board is getting to approve those measures, then the analysis is going to happen within it, right? Like why, I don't feel like there needs to be an obligation to analyze our graduation rates because you're already going to get the evaluation of multiple measures, which is that first component of that definition of reasonable progress.
Yeah, maybe I didn't get my point across correctly, but when I mentioned this is going to be a lot more work, more or less, we're taking, I mean, graduation rate, choice ready, like student literacy performance, all the stuff from that in our existing results policy one, that stuff's all in the strategic plan and more, and a lot more. It, so yeah, like I don't see them as exclusive. I see this as saying, all right, here's, we have, we're not, we're taking this policy and saying, instead of here's a handful of things, we're saying there's so many other things, please refer to this other document, our strategic plan. And those are the, that's kind of the main starting point for this results policy. At least that's in my interpretation is, I mean, in every result policy, this motion adds the definition of reasonable progress within the context of monitoring the results of Fargo Public Schools strategic plan. So when so again, my question to clarify with board members is, are you interpreting this the same way that the strategic plan and all the SMART goals therein is the starting point for when we monitor each of these results policies?
Mr. Johnson?
Well, I obviously am not going to have to worry about this, Craig, but the answer to your question is yes. That's exactly what this is going to do. And quite frankly, that old data that you're referring to is still going to exist because the state's still going to give us those reports. And yeah, you're right. What RUPAC has laid out here is going to be a little bit more work for the administration to inform us as to how they're accomplishing the results. But I don't know, I'm assuming you're going to be supportive of this because.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very supportive of this. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and not, really underestimating, like, I mean, this is a dramatic increase to the strategic alignment and the accountability that we're expecting from ourselves and from administration.
Ms. Day?
Great question, Mr. Clerk. It's really, it's very thoughtful and clear of the question that you are asking for. Sorry. Yes, it will create more work for the administration and so forth compared to what we had before. But for me, if you want my answer at some point, I think this is great because there are some that I have not seen data for the students, especially like graduation rates, the diverse background students. I don't see it. I think this will really bring in more information toward what I want to see more into the Fargo Public Schools and many others, as far as, and I think that the board too will definitely understand where you guys already know where we're going with this. So we've been working with this for a pretty long time, and Dr. Gandhi and his team has been really updating us on all of this. And the fact that, they want us to have those reasonable progress, I'm with it. I really wanted to really want to see more. I want to see that. I want our community to see more. How are we moving forward? How are we seeing things? How are we doing it? how are our student in the Fargo Public School are doing. So, it's not only us, it's our community need that. So thank you.
Thank you. I think I saw Mr. Holden first.
I'm actually kind of excited that this will be one of my last votes because I think this is extremely important for our district. Not only, it's one thing to just look at an operational plan and be like, yep, we did that, we did that, we did that, we did that. The question is whether or not doing that is having an effect on our goals that we're trying to meet. And I think this helps tie that together. And I think your example of the stipend for special education teachers is a perfect example. If our idea is to put dollars in our budget to something and it's clearly not working, we need to know that so we can make that adjustment, because part of our responsibility as board members is being good stewards of taxpayer dollars and putting those dollars where they're going to be the most effective. And if we can monitor this in a way that allows us to shift gears if need be, I think that's one of the most paramount things that we do as a board is to make sure that we're spending those dollars that we get effectively and making sure that we have the student outcomes that we need. So I'm on board, yeah, I think this is great, and I'm going to support Jim's motion, and I just wanted to share that.
Thanks. Dr. Gandhi?
If IT in the back room can turn the computer back on. Greg, your question, I think it made me realize I had probably gone through one of my slides a little bit too quickly. That might also assist. So your question about the interpretation on the amount of work, we're not viewing it as the board now has to evaluate every one of those SMART goals. I think this is the piece that's probably missing that might help answer the question. And this was what we presented to governance when we brought this as an agenda item. I want to clarify that if the board does not agree with the superintendent interpretation on the top part, we can have that conversation separately, like as a board or whatever, but it's not going to impact the result policies that are being updated today. But this might be that piece where it's not going to be the board having to evaluate all 200 measures. We did put that the superintendent interpretation of reasonable progress would mean that our teams that are providing the results report to you will then pick which measures that they're evaluating, whether it's on that monthly basis or in that summative report. It's not going to be every single one of them every single time because there's so many different fluid data points. And we would hope and ask that the board does say, hey, why did you pick this subset of the graduation rate and not this other goal that we're falling behind on? And we should be able to say, well, we didn't put as much emphasis on it this year because of X, Y, Z. We want to be able to have that dialogue with you, but it's not evaluating 200, it's not increasing the goals, the board's work to evaluate every one of the goals. This interpretation would allow us to pick and choose of those goals, which ones that we're putting in front of you. You'd still have access to every single one of them and the performance in front of them as well.
Other questions or comments? All right, with that, Ms. Campbell, could you please call the roll?
Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Brooklyn,
Yes. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 7C, our 2024-25 preliminary budget approval, coming to us through memo number 144. Mr. Johnson, would you please introduce this for us?
I surely will. I'm going to first walk you through kind of a 10,000-foot overview of all the budgets, and then I'll put a motion forward for our consideration. If you want to jump ahead to the general fund, we're looking at an increase in revenue of 3.14%. That's a combination of property taxes going up about 5.1%, local revenue, which includes a variety of different things, going up about 7.8%. State revenue, because of the offsets that we get and a change in the transportation aid, we're looking at only a 1.3% increase. And federal revenue, although this does not include most of our federal grants, Those will be coming, I believe, in October when we look at the final budget. Long story short, 3.14% total revenue increase. On the expenditure side of things, first of all, to address something that came from the audience, the percentage increase between teachers and administrators is a function of the total number of employees, not necessarily what they're paid. Teachers have whatever the negotiated agreement provided them, and if you looked at the data behind the actual numbers, we have several new administrative positions that were having to be filled based upon new initiatives in the district. The salary and benefit, which clearly is the biggest chunk of our general fund, is going up 4.19%. So that leads us to acknowledge either that we have to cut something else or that we're going to be deficit spending using up fund balance since revenue only went up 3.14. Well, the good news is because we have just an absolute great business manager and team, they were able to find several areas of savings, and primarily in the equipment and technology line, which is dropping by 51% in the coming year. Thank you, Bill, for whatever you're not going to have. So we are actually presenting a balanced general fund budget. Total expenditures are going to go up 3.14% based upon the preliminary budget. Our fund balance that we're projecting to end 2024 with is $41,078,000 and change, and we expect that to be the same fund balance at the end of 2025. So that's the general fund. If we move over to the building fund, and keep in mind there are two components to our building fund because we have a special levy that was approved by the voters that we transfer money to the building fund from that special levy fund. But we are looking at revenue totals of 18 million in the building fund for next year. That's up pretty dramatically, in large part because of the sale of the district office downtown. We're anticipating actually that sale will come through at $3.6 million in the coming calendar year. The total expenditures in the building fund are going to be 16.6 million. So we're going to spend a little bit less than we're actually going to collect, and our fund balance on the building fund will actually go up from 16.6 million to about $18 million for the coming year. We also have a special assessment fund that we're allowed to levy for all the special assessments the city gives us. We're currently levying 1 mil, and that's going to produce $569,000 of revenue. We are anticipating paying off all the existing specials, which are primarily due to the Ed Clapp school of 1.3 million. So we're going to actually spend more than we have in the special assessment fund and spend down the fund balance. It may be next year that we may be able to forego the 1 mil that we're currently assessing for special assessments. It'll depend on what comes from the city. The next one in your packet is the special levy fund, which I alluded to. This is additional authority the taxpayers gave us for building. And generally speaking, we take most of the revenue out of this and transfer it over to the building fund. We're anticipating about 6.4 million of total revenue off the special levy fund, and 550 million of that, or 5,500,000 of that, excuse me, will get transferred over into the building fund. The next fund you see is the debt service fund. It does not have revenue. It just gets paid by our general fund dollars and building fund dollars. It's really our debt service for our buildings and any bond issues out there. We are anticipating about 10,567,000 of payments to be made next calendar year. And last is our nutrition services fund, which we had approved the increases in the meal prices, which are reflective in this particular budget. Our total revenues are going to be projected at 8.1 million. Our total expenditures are projected to be 9.4 million. And this is by design. We are trying to spend down that fund balance. And based upon what we are projecting right now for next year, we'll start the year with a $4 million and change fund balance. We'll end with 2.6 million. So with that, I would like to move that the board approve the preliminary approval of the general fund, building fund, special assessment fund, special levy fund, debt service fund, and nutrition services fund budgets, and submit preliminary mill levy certification to the county auditor.
Second.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Johnson, and I think I heard Ms. Nelson second first. Yes.
Just one last point of clarification, and this is probably more for the 3 new board members who will be soon joining this board. This is part 1 of a 2-part process. These budgets will change slightly, not dramatically, between now and the end of September. The board in September will have to approve the final budgets, which will then be sent over to the county auditor. And before I give up this microphone, I want to take a special moment to thank Jackie and her team for an incredible job putting these budgets together. And I realize it isn't just your team in the business service department, it's our entire staff, from the building level all the way here to the DO. So thank you very much.
President Berkland,
Yes.
I have a question for Jim or Jackie, and then a couple of comments. The first question is, the proceeds for the prior deal, did the proceeds for buildings always need to go to the building fund?
Not necessarily, but that's where we're sending these particular dollars.
Okay. Here's a comment. I've heard some recent comments out in the community, and I want to make it clear that Fargo Public Schools does not pay for the exterior pools on our high schools. That's paid through the park board. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. The state per pupil amount is 56.3% of FPS's revenue, far short of the 70% legislated intent. And even if we were to include the state transportation fund that you mentioned, Mr. Johnson, that is still only at 58.2%, perhaps a function of the mill levy deduct, but short of the legislative intent. And that is something that is out of our control from the state level. So I think that's important to remember during an upcoming vote or initiative measure. Administrative salaries are 8.9% of all salary expenses. And then lastly, I would say that a 21% existing fund balance is in alignment with Executive Limitation 7. We want that sweet spot there between 15 and 25%. Is that correct, Mr. Johnson?
Absolutely correct.
Okay. And then as far as cutting back to make our budget balanced, we've had to do that in the past with some building things, and that's perhaps why we're behind on some of our building updates. And that's truly a function of the board and what they approve as a budget, not as much as for administration. That is my last comment. Thank you, Jim and Jackie and team, for all your work.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. And, oh yeah, I'm so sorry, Mr. Clark.
Two things. One, Jim kind of alluded to this, but the $2.2 million reduction, 74% reduction in tech equipment, is that more of a return to normalcy from abnormally inflated number the previous fiscal year, or is this a dramatic shift or cut to that?
We took advantage of current circumstances and pre-purchased equipment. So we'll get them in the hands earlier for the students, but we also we're able to take that strain off of next year's budget.
All right, and then as far as expenditures go, there's a 15+% increase to expenditures for aides and paras as far as their salary is concerned. I think that's great, but I was wondering if there's, maybe is that just, are we hiring a lot more, or is that more of a reflection to the raises that they've, been getting?
Okay, Mr. Johnson.
It's a function of a couple of different things. One was the raise that was offered to all of our salaried people, which was their normal step plus $1.50 to try and get, quite frankly, market wages for a number of those jobs. But you'll also notice, if you look at the detail under expenditures, we're anticipating about 11.5 new FTEs in the aid area. 4.5 of them as elementary PBTs and 7 of them as restorative practices. So that plus the step and the $1.50 is what equated to that raise, or that increased percentage.
Other questions or comments? Oh, Dr. Gandhi?
I just wanted to echo what Jim said earlier, that the board should expect, by the time that this budget is finalized in September, there will be some changes to where we started. We had to make some tough decisions this year to get this budget to where it is, and grateful for our team for doing that. But in recognizing doing that, we didn't have much room for some of the pieces that were still pending. Like, so, as you know, it takes a while to prepare board materials and so forth. So like for this budget, there's some things that we're still talking through about long-range facility planning and post services and plan your neighborhood. Those things might not be included now. And then by the time we get to September, based on some of the committee works and other pieces, we may have to either reshift priorities or add that into it. And I just wanted to throw that out there to just let you know that there will be some of those changes as well, that that the budget will change between now and September. But we do anticipate presenting to the board in August or September, before we get to the final budget, a more detailed presentation about here's the assumptions for this year, here's our values, and then even going back to that scorecard, hopefully, and showing you concretely, these are the strategies that we're investing in, because it is trade-offs that we want. But I just want to call out specifically some of the board work related to long-range facility planning might not be in here, might not be currently in that facilities budget, because we're still trying to figure some of that stuff out.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, Ms. Campbell, could you please call the roll?
Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Kirkland.
Yes, motion carries. And moving on to our new additions to the business section, I'm planning to take these in order that they had originally appeared in the consent agenda. So beginning with memo number 141, which addresses GP8E changes. This comes to us through governance, so I will introduce. At the May 20th Governance Committee meeting, the district's results and results monitoring process was discussed. With the update in the district's strategic plan, administration will be reporting to the board members more regularly at board meetings with updates on the results and the measures in the strategic plan during the administrative report section of the agenda. At the committee meeting, Dr. Gandhi requested that administration suggest an updated results and executive limitations monitoring schedule that aligns to the work and the data for each result and executive limitations. Consensus was reached at the meeting that administration bring a suggested update for the monitoring scheduling, included in GP8E to the board at the June 25th meeting. So the red line changes are attached to this memorandum, and to kick off our discussion, I would look for a motion. think I saw Miss Day's hand first.
Who do you want to go first? Okay. Okay, I would like to I would like to approve the changes to the policy GP-8E as presented.
Second.
All right, moved by Miss Day, seconded by Mr. Holden. Any discussion or comments?
Just wanted to ask, did you move this off because we hadn't approved business item 7B yet, I'm assuming?
That was part of it, yeah. Yeah. It did seem odd to approve this before we got through memo 140. I think that, Dr. Gandhi, your presentation definitely illuminated and helped with that, with my concerns with this quite a bit. Though maybe it's still worth discussing. The memo says that admin wants to give us updates more regularly. The changes to GP8E by themselves do not do that. It just shuffles stuff around. It doesn't actually increase the frequency with which we monitor anything formally. So now knowing that we're going to get monthly reflections on everything, I think that would obviously achieve the goal of giving us more regular updates. I just don't know if we need to bake that into GP8E or if we want to, or, this is really wonky procedural stuff, but I just don't know how the rest of the board is kind of wondering how we should enshrine it in our own policies.
Dr. Gandhi, did you?
Yeah, in your result policies, when you look at the monitoring methods, it gives you 3 different methodologies like administrative input, annual summative report, and then if the board ever wanted to hire an external third party to do it too. So to me, this GP80, again, I think this is a great question because it's an interpretation question for the board, is solely based off the summative reporting. The monthly reporting would be just the administrator providing that. But if we want to bake that into policy, that's fine as well. But I don't think that was a consideration when we were making these changes. But you are right. Like when you just look at this is just shifting things around. The other unstated impact here that we discussed at governance that I want to make sure that all the board is on the same page is this is the big one, and it's not stated here, but historically when we've done result monitoring, we've done result monitoring with the concept of a year in arrear, meaning it was everything that was done in that previous year, so waiting for that and then monitoring a little bit afterwards. With the more frequent monitoring pieces going forward, now we're just going to say, since the last result monitoring, this is the change that we've made. So that's why we shifted this based on sometimes where we get different data points on. Some of the shifts were also made to be aligned with when you do EL monitoring for the same type of category. So it's not a significant change on paper, but the way we report out, not just waiting for a whole year's work to be completed versus just since your last update, that will be a shift, but that's not reflected in here.
So just so I understand your comment, that means that, let's say we had a reflection in January and then we were monitoring the next month, we would be looking at that short time frame?
In the month to month, yeah. In the annual report, we'll probably still include a summary of everything from the year, but it's not, but that might mean, so I'll use Strategic Initiative 1, for example. Historically, we would have waited for every data point to come in that would contribute to Strategic Initiative 1. And we may get test scores in July, we may get graduation rates in August. So then we had to wait till September or October to be able to get everything, analyze it, and then present it to the board. Now, this year, like, because we know that we can give you the test scores when they come in and evaluate that in July, we can still do this report in August and just say, hey, we're focusing on the data that we just got or whatever. You would still have access to that. But we don't have to wait for the full battery of data points that would need for a result report and then report after the fact, which would then probably be too late for us to be able to make any adjustments off of it or have the board make any adjustments off of it either.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Campbell, could you please call the roll?
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yep.
Nelson,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Christensen, Yes. Clark,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Berkeley.
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to what is now business item E, the GP2E changes coming to us through memo number 145. This also came through governance, so I will introduce. At the May 20th and June 17th Governance Committee meetings, board meeting processes were discussed. Specifically, at the June 17th meeting, the regular meeting agenda was discussed, which is included in GP2E. After thoughtful discussion, the committee recommends that the regular board meeting agenda flow be updated to move public comment to later in the board agenda. The section on the agenda of GP2E would be updated for the agenda to be as follows, and it would show the new order. And attached is a version of GP2E that also reflects that change. So to begin our discussion, I would entertain a motion, please. Mr. Johnson.
I'll move that we approve the change to GP2E as presented in memo 145.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Johnson and seconded by Ms. Gullickson, and I would look for discussion, please. Ms. Christensen.
I'll share with the board, I plan to vote against this because I do not believe that we should be making our public comment less accessible. My biggest concern with this is that we are taking away the ability of the public to comment on business items before we vote on them. I would maybe consider if we had public comment at the beginning that had to be germane to the agenda and then maybe open comment at the end. But I oppose this because of taking away, I think it makes it public comment less accessible for our public, and I'm not open to that.
Thank you. Mr. Holden?
I echo, and I won't be supporting this either. I think it not only, I think it makes it less effective for people to come and share their thoughts on motions that we already voted on. We should be listening to what the public has to say prior to us voting on motions. Otherwise, it's pretty much a pointless part of our agenda if that's not the case. And I think I mentioned this I feel like we're trying to fix a problem that exists elsewhere, and I mentioned this in governance too. I think if we want to make any adjustments to our agendas, I think the problem that we've had in the past couple of years actually exists in our FEA report. And so if we wanted to look at something in changing comments, that would be where it should be, and I don't think it should be in the public comment section, and I think it should stay where it's at. So I'm not going to support this motion.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Ms. Gullickson.
And this is why I seconded it, because I wanted to hear the conversation, because I have been approached as well. And all of these things make sense. I think we need to look at it and leave it earlier in our lineup. So I won't be supporting it either.
Okay, thank you. Other discussions or questions or comments? Mr. Clark?
I am somewhat interested in Katie's idea about potentially having two different times for public comment, maybe one before business and one after. Where it lands, I'm not really sure. I think that's an idea certainly worth exploring. I don't think now is the time or place to explore that, given, I think we should leave that to the board after reorganization next month, to let them kind of decide it. But that being said, yeah, I will not be supporting the motion.
Thanks. Ms. Day?
No, the only thing that I wanted to say is, well, I'm actually against it, but but I just think that we should be able to put the recognition of the audience before recognition of activities. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, Ms. Campbell, could you please call the roll?
Holden,
No.
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
No.
Newman, Newman, Christensen,
No.
Clark,
No.
Day, Gullickson,
No.
Berkland,
No, motion fails. Moving on to our final item for business, which is now 7F, which comes to us through memo number 142, changes in the long-term disability and life insurance policies. Mr. Johnson,
President,
could you?
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest pursuant to North Dakota Century Code 15.1-07-17.
Thank you. All right, with that, Mr. Johnson, could you please introduce this for us?
Well, I'm assuming that's why we pulled this.
Yes, I
This
pulled
came
this from
through
cons-
planning, and I actually want to thank the planning committee. I wasn't able to be there, but obviously, we went out to market for both our group life and disability and voluntary accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity insurance. And before you is a recommendation that we move forward with Symetra for our group basic voluntary life, accidental death and disability insurance, group long-term disability insurance, and group voluntary accident, critical illness, and hospital indemnity insurance effective January 1st of next year, as they were the low bid.
Second.
All right, moved by Mr. Johnson, seconded by Ms. Nelson. Any discussion? All right, seeing none. Ms. Campbell, could you please call the roll?
Johnson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Newman, Christensen,
Yes.
Clark, excuse me, sorry, conflict of interest. Day,
Yes.
Gullickson,
Yes.
Holden,
Yes.
Berkland,
Yes, motion carries. Moving on to our board report section. I was going to try to avoid this, but Katie, it looks like you have something to say.
Yeah, it's on the agenda, so we have to do it. The agenda was approved. Board reports. Melissa, on behalf of the entire board, I share our gratitude to you for serving as our president for the 2023-2024 school year. As you certainly know by now, this role is immense. We sincerely appreciate the extra time you have dedicated this year to the position and providing the needed leadership for our meetings, our board, and our district. In all respects, you have been a focused, professional, and respected leader. Melissa, we recognize that the success of this board is contingent on the leadership, vision, and commitment of its president, and for that we thank you. On behalf of the board, I present to you this plaque acknowledging your leadership this past year. The plaque reads, "For achievements on behalf of the students, employees, and citizens of the Fargo Public School District through outstanding leadership as president of the Fargo Board of Education 2023-2024. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. All right, now we will move on to board reports. It sounds like Dr. Newman may have left us, but Ms. Nelson, would you like to begin with our board reports?
I certainly can. The only report I have is last week I attended a press conference that was arranged by a coalition called Keep It Local, Coalition to Approve the Probable Measure to Eliminate Property Tax. And that was Thursday at the new beautiful Park District facility. I will send each board member a link to the 63 organizations that have signed on to oppose this probable measure. A lot of them are from completely different industries. And that's something we should be watching closely. And as should have opened with, this is related to Governmental Affairs Committee. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Christensen, let's go to you.
I have nothing to report.
Mr. Clark?
The only thing I have is I substitute chaired for Jim at the Planning Committee on the 18th of June.
Thank you. Ms. Gullickson?
Thank you. June 17th, I attended our new credit union ribbon cutting, which was really great. And I should probably share, I've joined their board as well. So that is an honor. June 19th, I attended the NDSBA Brunch and Learn, which I think was mostly geared for managers because it was follow-up after the election. But it was very interesting to hear all the different requirements and processes that are still ongoing after election night. Our last CEA meeting was canceled until July for board reorganization. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
I'll apologize in advance. This is going to be a lengthy report. Since our last meeting, Planning Committee did meet. I was unable to be there, but you saw much of their work tonight, both in the budget and the life and disability quote that we just approved. They're also working on the standard of effort report to hopefully make it more meaningful. And I think that'll be ongoing work that the Planning Committee will continue to work on over the course of the next few meetings. SEEC had a board meeting where we had to bring in our new members from Region 5, 6, 7, and 8 and approve them. We also looked at the annual work plan. And unfortunately for me, I'm going to have to be at one more of those board meetings on August 13th because you will not have appointed somebody new by then. Which leads me to Bill, please don't cut off my email till after that date because this is how they communicate to me. I was at governance. And lastly, and I apologize, but I'm going to just use this moment in time to reflect a little bit. I want to thank our entire community for allowing me the honor of being on the Fargo School Board for the past 23 years. During that time period, I've served with 31 different board members, a few of which were actually kind enough to show up tonight, although I think they headed over to a place where I'm supposed to show up and buy pop later. I've had the privilege of working with 4 different superintendents, and I think we have one of the best currently holding that title here. I've had the honor of working with 3 different business managers, and the best of the 3 is currently in that role. During my tenure on the board, we've built a high school, a middle school, 5 new elementary buildings, a new central kitchen and operations center. We also did significant remodeling to Ben Franklin, North, South, and several of our elementary buildings. Perhaps the most difficult decision I faced as a board member, and I suspect you that are going to continue to serve will face, revolve around attendance boundaries. It is never an easy decision, but I made one along with my fellow board members that was considered very unpopular at the time, to move my own neighborhood school to North High as opposed to South. The only reason I voted for that wasn't because I didn't believe that South High was the right high school for everybody to go to. It was because I wanted to make sure we had viable curriculum at all of our secondary buildings, and we needed more students on the north side. Going forward as board members, I want to encourage you as you make difficult decisions, to think about our obligation to our community as a whole and make the decision based on what's best for most students, not what's best for your students or your neighborhood. As a board member, I believe we have a responsibility to protect our district from unfair criticism and to be avid defenders of public education. If you're not willing to do those two things, please resign and do not become a school board member. Our district has recently been criticized for being an employer in today's work environment. I don't know about who all you might work for, but I work for a company with 380 employees, and over 300 of them are remote workers, including me. So the idea that having a remote worker for a school district is somehow not copacetic for what we're dealing with today is simply repugnant. If the position doesn't require you to be foot on the ground in Fargo, and you are the most qualified person, I would encourage our HR director to make that hiring decision each and every day. Recently, I saw a local media outlet criticizing our superintendent for using AI to make his life easier. Now, I don't know where this media outlet is from, but I am here to tell you that AI is here to stay, and it is going to touch every aspect of your life from when you wake up to when you go to bed and even while you're sleeping. So thank you, Rupak, for staying on top of this and making sure all of the kids in Fargo Public Schools understand the advantages and disadvantages that AI will bring. We as board members need to do our very best to chart the future course for the school district. We need to protect the district at all junctures, and we need to challenge decisions that we do not think are appropriate. I want to wish all the new board members, and I don't think most of them stayed after their training today, and all of the returning board members, your very best going forward. The job is not easy, but it's got a lot of rewards. It happens every spring at graduation. And finally, I need to thank three very special people, one of who's in the audience. I don't know if she's ever been to a school board meeting since I've been elected, but Kay, thank you for allowing me to serve and the hours it's taken away from my family. There are two other people that have made my life as a school board member much, much easier, and I owe an untold amount of gratitude to both of them, Shirley Johnson and Anne Marie Campbell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think the title of board secretary is really a misnomer. You're the operational manager for the board, and you keep us in line. So thank you for all you do. And Shirley, if you happen to be listening, thank you for what you did before her. And with that, I apologize for that lengthy report.
Thank you so much. No need to apologize. Just thank you for your service. All right, Mr. Holden.
I'm certainly not going to top that. So I have nothing to report this evening, but I just want to say that I want to thank the community for giving me an opportunity, even if it was just one opportunity, to serve in this capacity. It's been an honor and a privilege to serve with every board member that I have. I'm going to miss you guys. It's been great working with you, and we all know that public education faces a lot of challenges moving forward, and I wish all of you the best of luck moving forward. And I am about ready to embark on a whole different journey when it comes to Fargo Public Schools, as my children will be starting in the school system in a couple of short months. So I guess my involvement in this capacity will be coming to an end tonight, but it will evolve into a different form come August. So I will always appreciate the time that I was given to be here And I will always support this district and this administration and all of the board members that have this rewarding but difficult job. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Seth. All right, Ms. Day.
I have nothing to report, but I want to say thank you to Jim for your service. And I don't say a lot to you, but there was an email that you sent me one time regarding the Pledge of Allegiance. It touched my heart that individual like you who backed me up and said that, you know, you stand with me with the decision that I made. That itself, it's unbelievable, but at the same time, I'm just very proud that I get to serve with you and get to learn so much from you. And I just want to say thank you, and I want to wish you good luck on your next adventure. And then also too, I want to say thank you to Seth. he's my next door neighbor right here. Seth's kind of I don't know. He's just a laid back individual who's who see me, you know, sitting here with my body language, you know, and so forth. He's probably, you guys do not see it, but he does a lot when I do not like something and I don't want to talk about it. And he will just see my body language. And I mean, Seth, I just want to say thank you, you know, for everything that you have been through and the encouragements and the support you have provided for me as a new board member. I just truly want to say thank you for everything. And then also to Dr. Newman, probably she already left, you know. She was sitting next on my right, and I just want to say thank you to her. And I'm just glad that I get to serve with all of you guys, and I learned so much. And so my gratitude come from my heart, and with all the support that I got from you guys, it mean a lot. So I just want to say thank you, and I wish you guys all the luck. Just don't forget about us. If we're doing something, email us, and you know we'll go in the right ways. Okay, I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. I have a very short report. She went first. But thank you. I often forget. So I don't have much to report. Governance and planning met last week, and that is about it. Our next regular meeting is July 9th. It's 7:22, and we are adjourned.